Repeat after me. Free Nacho!
Free Nacho!
Free Heidi!
Free Heidi!
Free them all!
Free them all!
Free Nacho!
Free Nacho!
Free Heidi!
Free Heidi!
Free them all!
Free them all!
Free Nacho!
Free Nacho!
Free Heidi!
Free Heidi!
Free them all!
Free them all!
Vermont will fight for immigrant rights! Vermont will fight for immigrant rights! Vermont will fight
For immigrant rights!
Vermont will fight!
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 For immigrant rights!
All right, give yourselves a round of applause. Welcome. It is phenomenal to see again today hundreds of people taking the streets here in support of our detained friends, community members, leaders, Nacho and Heidi, who have been unjustly taken from us, separated from their families, and we are here to demand their freedom. Give it up! So let's hear it. Raise your hand or give a shout. Who here was here yesterday for Heidi's hearing? Woo! All right, and who's here for the first time today? Hell yeah! Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this rally is being called by Migrant Justice. Migrant Justice is a grassroots organization founded and led by Vermont's community of immigrant farm workers, fighting for human rights and economic justice here in the state of Vermont and around the country. And we are proud to be here leading this rally, fighting for freedom for the detained leaders, Nacho and Heidi. And we know that this fight is going to be a long one. Nacho and Heidi were detained on June 14th as they were driving, delivering food to their friends and fellow community members working on farms in Franklin County. They were pulled over without cause, their window was busted by Border Patrol, and they were pulled out of their vehicle and unjustly and violently arrested. They have been held behind bars for more than 3 weeks. This is an injustice, this is a violation of their fundamental human rights. And we are fighting for their release. Yesterday, Heidi had her first hearing. After 3 weeks, her first court hearing, her first chance to go in front of a judge to demand her freedom, to defend against this unjust detention. And unfortunately, yesterday, there was not a decision in Heidi's case. The judge had the opportunity to release Heidi, but chose instead to hold her for longer and to ask the parties to come back to present more evidence and more arguments on the case. So, and today will be no different. Nacho has already been issued a continuance by the court. The hearing will not go forward as planned today, and Nacho will not get a hearing in court today. But that does not mean that the case is over, and that does not mean that the fight is finished. Even though Nacho's case will not be heard, Nacho and Heidi continue to fight for their freedom, and they will be back in court soon on a date when we will let you know, and we will be back here stronger than before, in greater numbers than before, to be here in support of our detained community members and to be with them when sooner or later they walk free. So we are glad that you all are here today. This is going to be a shorter rally than the one yesterday. Did anybody get soaked on their way out yesterday at the end of the rally? I know I did. So I think we're going to beat the weather today. We're going to be here for a while. We'll hear for a couple speakers, people who know Nacho, people who are here in solidarity. We're going to show our support. Even though Nacho is not in the courtroom today, he knows that we're rallying. He feels this support. We'll be talking with him when we leave today, and he's going to want to know how things went today. So let's make sure that we make some noise for Nacho, that he feels the love and solidarity that we have. Because one thing's for certain, one thing we know to be true, that if it were somebody else in detention, Nacho would be the first one out here behind the mic, speaking, chanting, and singing in support of his community members. He would have our back, so let's make sure we have his. So without further ado, we want to start the program. I'm going to pass it over to Thelma, a leader of Migrant Justice, to get us started. Give it up for Thelma!
¿Se puede o no se puede? ¿Se puede o no se puede? Sí se puede. 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 Antes de entrar y reconocer a quién es Nacho, primero quiero quiero hablar un poco de la causa y del efecto de lo que está pasando y de un sistema cruel.
So before speaking about Nacho and who he is as a person, I want to start my remarks more generally with the causes and the impacts of the cruel system that's being enacted upon us.
Nosotros no migramos por gusto. En nuestros países pasan cosas que han sido creadas por un sistema cruel. Por eso muchos nos hemos visto forzados a migrar de una manera tan cruel.
So ours is not a migration of choice. Our community is here because we have been displaced from our own communities. We have been forced to migrate by a cruel system that doesn't allow us to live freely in our own countries.
Un sistema que contamina, que crea esa necesidad para que la gente pueda y tenga que venir a otro país, en un país donde somos criminalizados, donde somos tratados como si no fuéramos humanos.
This is a system that contaminates our land, that contaminates our countries, that poisons us and forces us to leave, to come to this country. This is a cruel system that, while it obliges us to leave our home towns, our home countries, it also criminalizes that act of migration. At the same time that it forces us to leave, it tells us that we are not welcome here.
Esto que está pasando en la historia de Nacho es una historia que vemos, no es nueva, es una historia que se ha contado muchas veces. Hay mucha gente que está siendo detenida y no solo ahora, en cualquier administración nos han hecho creer que somos un problema.
So Nacho's story is not new and it's not unique to him. And this is not a unique circumstance under this presidential administration. Whoever is in the White House, they have always criminalized our community. They have always sought to repress us and to tell us that we are not welcome.
Es importante recordar que cuando alguien de nuestra comunidad está siendo atacada, tenemos que salir a marchar, tenemos que salir a alzar la voz. Reconozco a todos ustedes por estar aquí y por no dejar solo a Nacho ni a Heidi y mostrar el poder que tenemos como comunidad.
And so that is why it is so important that any one of us who is under attack, we have to come out to march, to rally, to show our support, because an injury to one is an injury to all. And so I applaud each and every one of you for being here to do our duty and standing in solidarity with our fellow community members who are under attack.
Recuerdo que, Nacho se involucró hace muchos años de ser un líder de la comunidad por esta misma necesidad y reconociendo estas causas y efectos que han habido, por las cuales él reconocía por qué estaba aquí, por qué había migrado de Tabasco, México, hasta aquí, hasta Vermont.
And so Nacho became involved in migrant justice as a person of great conscience who understood at a deep level the causes and impacts of this unjust system. He understood why he was forced to leave his country and migrate here.
Siempre hablaba de la agricultura, de por qué ya no podían seguir viviendo de la agricultura. Y siempre hablábamos de esto en nuestra comunidad, de que cómo era y cómo antes no reconocíamos estas razones por las que ya no podíamos seguir viviendo de la agricultura. Por qué Pemex había contaminado la tierra y por qué todo lo que había pasado había tenido un efecto en él, en tener que llegar a este país y tener que trabajar en un rancho lechero.
And so Nacho has spoken many times about the causes of his displacement. As the child of farmers and the descendant of farmers, Nacho grew up on the land, and in his own lifetime, he saw how his family was no longer able to make a living off of the land that they had farmed for generations. How because of climate change and the poisoning of his land, the contamination from petroleum infrastructure, from the Pemex natural gas and oil company, his family was no longer able to stay on the land that they had farmed. That was what brought Nacho here. And so from his own farming in Mexico to now coming to Vermont to sustain the farming system in this state, Nacho understood the reasons for his migration.
Y eso hizo que Nacho tomara una responsabilidad importante, no solo reconociendo el problema que había, ni el sistema, sino también tomando responsabilidad por ellos y hablando por mucha de la comunidad que todavía no tenía esta conciencia.
And so Nacho brought that consciousness into the organization because he understood not only the problem, but the solution, that is organizing together with his community to take action collectively. And he took on that role of an organizer and a leader in his community to share what he knew with others and to inspire his fellow community members to take action alongside him.
Nacho ha sido alguien que nos ha enseñado muchísimo a nuestra comunidad, ha educado a la comunidad migrante y no solo eso, pero también ha ayudado como amigo, como camarada, como alguien de la familia que siempre estaba preocupada para que alguien tuviera una licencia de conducir, tuviera acceso a un hospital, pudiera hacer cosas básicas. Nacho estaba ahí apoyando a todos.
And so Nacho has been an educator and a leader in his community. And not only has he been focused on organizing his community for collective change, but he's also been somebody on whom everybody knows they can rely. Whether it's help in accessing medical treatment, or whether it's getting a ride to the DMV to get your driver's license. Everybody knows that if you need something, Nacho is there to help you.
No es justo lo que está pasando con Nacho. No es justo que su familia esté sufriendo. No es justo que ICE haya hecho esto y violado sus derechos. Y por eso seguiremos demandando, porque necesitamos a Nacho aquí afuera. Necesitamos que Nacho esté con nosotros.
And so it is an injustice that Nacho has been taken from us. It is an injustice that he has been separated from his family. It is an injustice that today he is behind bars. And that's why we must fight to free our detained fellow member, Nacho. That is why we are here today.
Tenemos que seguir exigiendo su libertad, tenemos que seguir marchando y organizando hasta que Nacho esté de vuelta, sin olvidar que el problema no son quienes cruzan las fronteras, sino las fronteras son el problema.
And so we need to keep marching, keep rallying, keep fighting, and always keeping in mind that the problem is not those who cross the border, the problem is the border itself.
Entonces cantamos, Nacho, no estás solo, Nacho, no estás solo, Nacho, no estás solo, Heidi y Nacho, no están solos, Heidi y Nacho, no están solos, Heidi y Nacho, no están solos,
Give it up for Thelma! Un aplauso! All right, and now we want to bring up to the mic our next speaker. As we spoke about yesterday, this is not the first time this year that people have been rallying in front of the U.S. District Court in support of those who have been unjustly detained by ICE and Border Patrol. We have been here time and time again for Mohsen, for Rumesa, yesterday for Heidi, today for Nacho, and we will keep coming back for all those who have been unjustly detained and who are being held behind bars. And we know that just as ICE and Border Patrol are coming after farm workers, are coming after migrants from Latin America, they are coming after Arab and Muslim people and people organizing in solidarity with Palestine. We saw it with Rumesa, we saw it with Mohsen, we've seen it around the country. This is one system that is attacking people on one front. Whether it's denying the humanity of Palestinian people in the United States or in Gaza, or denying the humanity of Latin American people in Vermont or in Mexico. This is a system that seeks to stamp out people for gain. And so we want to bring up to the mic Ashley Smith, a member of the Coalition for Palestinian Liberation, who's been a strong supporter of migrant justice over the years. Give it up.
Free, free Heidi!
Free, free Heidi!
Free, free Nacho!
Free, free Nacho!
Free, free Heidi!
Free, free Heidi!
Free, free Nacho!
Free, free Nacho!
Free, free, free them all!
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 My name's Ashley Smith. I'm part of the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation. And we are proud to stand here today in solidarity with Heidi, Nacho, with all the migrants that are under the witch hunt launched by the Trump administration. We've seen the troops deployed in LA. We've seen the National Guard deployed in LA. We saw them march into the park yesterday, and we saw the people rise up and say, no, not in our LA. We are going to defend our land. We have to do that here in Vermont. When ICE comes for any of the migrants, they come for all of us in Vermont. And all of us must pledge today that when they come for the migrants, we will stand with them. We will stop their arrest. We will free them, and we will fight for the liberation of all migrants in this country. I want to applaud migrant justice, not just for the tireless work over years for migrant rights in this state and migrant rights across this country, but for their vision that an injury to one is an injury to all, that the struggle for migrants is tied to the struggle for workers' rights, is tied for the struggle for the liberation of people throughout this world, is tied to the struggle for Palestinian liberation. When the genocide started in Gaza, the first group that stood side by side with the Vermont Coalition for Palestinian Liberation was migrant justice. Why? Because migrant justice understands what apartheid looks like. The U.S. is an apartheid state. Migrants in this country do not have rights of any kind. They are super exploited. They are subject to a border wall. They are subject to a Gestapo called ICE and a constant threat of dispossession and deportation. That is American apartheid. That's why migrant justice stands against American apartheid and Israeli apartheid. Because the same things done to migrants here is done to Palestinians in occupied Palestine from the river to the sea. That's why migrant justice and the struggle for Palestinian liberation are one. And we must stand and fight together with migrant justice. If anybody had any doubt about this, look at Trump's big ugly bill that just passed that has $170 billion for border enforcement, to hire more Gestapo troops, to do what is done to Heidi and Nacho, to thousands upon thousands and millions of migrants in this country. This is a dark day in this country, as the big ugly bill proved. That same big ugly bill has $1 trillion for the Pentagon. And you know where those arms and all that money goes? Is to support Israeli apartheid. Trump's big ugly bill makes the connection between Palestinian liberation and migrant justice more clear than anything in the history of this country. So we stand here today to say, free Nacho, free Heidi, free them all. We freed Mohsen, we freed Mahmoud, we freed Rumeysa. I forgot all of them. There's so many of them that are still in jail. We freed those Palestinian political prisoners and Palestine solidarity activists. We are going to free Nacho and Heidi, and we're going to stop ICE from arresting and deporting any more farm workers in this state. So I'll just close with the chant that should echo from the very north of this state at the border all the way down to the southern tip. Vermont will fight for immigrant rights. Vermont will fight for immigrant rights.
Vermont will fight for immigrant rights. Vermont will fight for immigrant rights. Vermont will fight for immigrant rights. Vermont will fight for immigrant rights. Vermont will fight for immigrant rights.
Give it up for Ashley. And as Ashley so rightly pointed out, people understand what it is to live under occupation and in a system that denies their basic human rights. When farm workers are being told that by leaving their farm and going to the grocery store, going to the pharmacy, bringing their kids to school, driving to the park, when they see that all of these things put their basic freedom at risk, that is what it is to live under occupation. And so wherever we are in the world, we know that occupation is a crime. So say it with me. From Mexico to Palestine, occupation is a crime. From Mexico to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime.
from Mexico to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime.
from Mexico to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime.
from Mexico to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime.
from Mexico to Palestine,
Occupation is a crime.
from Palestine to Mexico, border walls have got to go. From Palestine to Mexico,
Border walls have got to go.
from Palestine to Mexico,
Border walls have got to go.
from Palestine to Mexico,
Border walls have got to go.
from Palestine to Mexico,
Border walls have got to go.
from Palestine to Mexico.
Border walls have got to go.
Give it up, give it up. And so as we've talked about and as you've been hearing, what is happening to Nacho and Heidi is sadly not a unique circumstance. People across the state of Vermont and around the country are being targeted, surveilled, criminalized, and detained by immigration enforcement, by the deportation agents in ICE and the U.S. Border Patrol. The detention of Nacho and Heidi is just the latest and highest profile incident. But every week, Migrant Justice is getting calls from community members of people who are being pulled over by Border Patrol, of people who have loved ones who have just been detained, of people whose family members have been disappeared and they're trying to locate them. We are seeing this day in and day out around the state, whether it's farm workers, construction workers, landscapers, hotel workers. These are attacks that are being felt widely and deeply by immigrants in Vermont. We wish that we could say that Nacho and Heidi's detention will be the last one, but we know that is not the case. We know that other people are currently living under threat of detention today, who are living under threat of being separated from their families and their ability to make a living. We know that Trump's deportation machine is ramping up, and the budget bill that has just been approved is going to ensure that his machinery of mass deportation has the funds and the capacity to target and detain many more members of our community. So we need to stay vigilant and rally not just to free Nacho and Heidi, but to free all those who are being targeted by this cruel and unjust system. And so one of those people who is at risk of detention right now is a name that many of you are familiar with. Wendy Bernardo is a farm worker, a mother, a member of the migrant justice community, a fierce leader, an advocate for human rights. Wendy is one of the people responsible for the passage of Vermont's immigrant health insurance program, which 3 years ago expanded health care to immigrants in the state. And by a show of hands, I want to know who here has gone to the ICE office in St. Albans to support Wendy during one of her appointments with ICE. Give yourselves a round of applause. Let's hear it. And so now we want to hear from Wendy, who is here with her family in support of Nacho and Heidi, and to all those who, like her, are being targeted by an unjust system. Let's hear it.
Buenas tardes para cada uno de ustedes y pues gracias por estar presente aquí. Yo creo que todos sabemos por qué estamos aquí, pues queremos la libertad de nuestro compañero Nacho y Heidi y todos pues estamos luchando a cada día porque esto es injusto lo que está pasando.
Good afternoon and welcome. We all know why we're here, and that is to fight for the freedom of our detained community members, Nacho and Heidi, and to stand up to the injustice that is being brought upon them.
Yo digo que es injusto porque no somos criminales para que nos detienen así. Yo he pasado por casi similar ese proceso. No es fácil estar encerrado en una cárcel, no hay comida, no hay nada de cobijas o cómo cubrirse. Quizás ahorita nosotros estando afuera pues sentimos calor, sentimos el aire frío, pero allá adentro no se mira si es de día o es de noche, a qué hora es, o eso es lo que yo he pasado, pues yo fui detenida también con mis niños pequeños.
And so I say that this is an unjust system because we are being criminalized for the act of migration. We are being deprived of our liberty as migrants. And so I know what Nacho and Heidi are going through because I've experienced it myself. I know what it is to be held in detention. I know what it is to be deprived of my liberty. Right now, we're feeling the sun on our backs, the warmth of the sun. We're feeling the wind on our skin. But when you're in detention, you don't feel any of that. You don't know whether it's night or day. You don't know what's happening around you. And I've been in that situation myself. I've been detained along with my children.
Entonces es importante pues que la comunidad estemos unidos más que nunca ahorita todo lo que está pasando y pues también pues queremos la libertad de nuestros compañeros Nacho y Heidi y sé que la familia pues está más que todo destrozada o ver cuándo van a estar libres ellos, pero creemos que sí, con la ayuda de la comunidad van a estar pronto con sus familias.
And so that's why we're here to rally for freedom for Nacho and Heidi. We know what their family is going through right now. We know what it is to be separated from your loved ones and what they have to experience and endure. And so let's fight together so that someday soon they will be free and return to their families. Let's hear it for Wendy. Give it up. And so we need to keep fighting not only for Nacho and Heidi, but for Wendy as well. As many of you know, because you've been there, Wendy is being required to report to the ICE office monthly now by Immigration Customs Enforcement and every one of those appointments could be her last. It could be an opportunity where she is detained and deported. So the past 2 times she's gone, she's been accompanied by hundreds of people there to support her and to let ICE know that we will not allow ICE to take Wendy from us. We will not allow ICE to separate Wendy from her family. We will be there for her for however many times it takes, for however long it takes, to ensure that Wendy remains free. So stay involved in migrant justice. Follow us on social media. Make sure you're getting our emails so that at Wendy's next ICE hearing, we want you to be there too. We want to show up not with dozens, not with 100, but with hundreds of people more to surround the building, to let ICE know through our presence, through our bodies, through our force, that we will be there to defend Wendy. So next I want to bring up to the mic somebody who you heard from yesterday. Pastor Laura of United Church of Christ, UCC, has been here standing alongside immigrant communities, fighting for freedom, fighting for justice, and showing us that this is the moral issue of our time, and we must stand up in solidarity to make sure that nobody is held in detention, because while one person is not free, none of us are free. Give it up for Pastor Laura.
Good afternoon, folks. It's good to see some familiar faces as well as some new faces today. And I'm just mindful that we're all coming potentially for different reasons, different motivations, different experiences. And so I've been asked to share a little bit about why I'm here. And in a moment, I'll give you a chance to kind of identify why you're here. Because it's important, you know, as Will's been saying, that we're in this for the long haul. And so how do we identify what are those sources of strength that are gonna help us sustain ourselves, sustain each other in doing this for Heidi, for Nacho, and for all who are unjustly detained. And so, why am I here? Why am I here? Why are any of us here? No. Big T truth. The big T truth that I can't prove objectively to any of you is I believe that all of us are created with worth and dignity by the divine. And the gift and the challenge of that reality is that we get to figure out who are we each day. We get to kind of unfold who that is and become in the world. And what happens for too many of us is that becoming is made more difficult by hatred, by violence, by economic oppression. And so I feel called to help create spaces for people to become who they are and trust that no matter who we are, we all deserve the right to become and live our lives fully and to thrive and not just have to fight to survive. All of us deserve that. My stepfather was forced to migrate by economic circumstances. He was downsized and dismissed by a company that he'd worked for all of his adult life. And after 2 years of doing odd jobs and sending out hundreds of resumes and amassing significant credit card debt, he decided to migrate, and he took himself and my mom from Central California to Southwest Missouri, where he could find work and he could start again. And as an adult, I was forced to migrate due to bigotry from Eastern Oregon to Central California after being let go from a job for being a lesbian. I was told it was because it was a small town and I lived openly with my partner. And I was also told it was really good that I was leaving because I was a threat to the community. Yeah. But both myself and my stepfather were very lucky because we were both white, able-bodied, educated, we had resources to move. And we didn't need a visa. We didn't need a passport. to travel and start again, because we just happened to be born in a country large enough and prosperous enough to find new opportunities. And all of us deserve that opportunity, no matter where we are born, no matter our language that we speak, the spirituality or religion we practice, the gender identity we express. We all deserve to thrive and not just survive. And the least of all, Nacho and Heidi. And that's who we are here for, but also mindful that we need to push back against systems that say you only have dignity based on arbitrary borders. So as a Christian, as a US citizen, I'm here with you standing because of my experience and my beliefs in a God of love and justice. Jesus tells me that the greatest commandment is to love, and not just a touchy-feely love or prayers and thoughts love, but a love of action. Love of action, a love that acts to feed the hungry, like Nacho and Heidi were doing when they delivered food to their fellow farm workers who were too afraid to leave the place of work. It's a love that welcomes the stranger and provides them shelter, not hoarding resources just for themselves and those who look like them or for those who can afford it. But it's making sure that everyone has access to dignified and safe housing. And it's a love that shows up, like you all are doing today. And so the invitation is to ask, why are you here? Those are some reasons why I'm here. And so those of you who were here yesterday, you already know what's coming. Hey, so you have a little head start. But the invitation is to turn to someone, maybe who you haven't met before, and to say a little bit about why you're here. What are the values, the experiences, the perspectives that fuel you for this fight for Heidi and Nacho? So I'll give you a few minutes to do that.
Sí, sí puede. Sí, sí puede. Sí, sí puede. Sí, sí puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Thank you, everyone. And again, I invite you to make these connections with each other, because our coalition is stronger. The more folks that are coming, the more perspectives, the more folks who are invested in this fight for Nacho, for Heidi, and for them all.
Thank you, thank you. Give it up for Pastor Laura. Nacho, Heidi, no están solos. Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
Nacho, Heidi.
No están solos.
All right, now we want to hear from Bread and Puppet with us all the way from Glover. Give it up for Bread and Puppet.
The shadows of ICE detention. These are the shadows of the 56,397 people who are currently being detained by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency throughout the United States. This is the shadow of Heidi and Nacho. organizers who deserve a dignified life free from government suppression and discrimination.
And this is the shadow of a tree that refuses to bear leaves.
Hey! 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 This is the shadow of the 1,300 children who were separated during the first Trump regime and have yet to be reunited with their loved ones.
And this is the shadow of a dog that never stops howling.
Hey! 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 This is the shadow of the 60 ICE detainees who went on hunger strike last year at the Mesa Verde and Golden State Annex detention facilities in response of malnutrition, medical neglect, and solitary confinement.
And this is the shadow of a stone with tears rolling down her face.
Hey! 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 This is the shadow of the hundreds of people who have been disappeared to prisons throughout the world under the sham Alien Enemies Act of 1798. This is the shadow here of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, husband, father of 3, and union worker who sustained beatings and torture in El Salvador and is currently fighting an unconstitutional prosecution in Tennessee.
And this is the shadow of a barbed wire snake, which is the U.S.-Mexican border. What poet Gloria Anzaldúa calls a bleeding open wound.
Hey! 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 This is the shadow of the 53 people who suffocated to death in a sweltering tractor trailer June of 2022, attempting to evade ICE detention in San Antonio, Texas.
And this is the shadow of a cup holding the tears of their loved ones.
Hey! 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 This is the shadow of a colonial government hurtling towards fascism.
And this is the shadow of a sun that refuses to shine till all people are released from ICE detention and ICE is abolished.
The shadows of ICE detention.
Thank you, Brad and Puppet. Thank you. Let's give it up. So you heard Thelma speak at the beginning of this rally about part of Nacho's history as a climate refugee from his hometown in Tabasco, Mexico, somebody whose family was no longer able to make a living farming the land that they had for generations, somebody who was displaced from his community, first from moving from the town into the city to take a job at the only one available with Pemex, with the same petroleum company that was polluting his land. And then after seeing his cousin die in an explosion at a refinery, to Vermont to work on a dairy farm. Escaping from displacement in Mexico, Nacho came to Vermont to find work and dairies like so many others before him and like so many who have come since. And he and his community have helped to sustain Vermont's iconic dairy industry, to keep the farms running as they work day in and day out, around the clock, around 7 days a week, 365 days a year, to keep our farms going. And on farms, Nacho encountered many of the same abusive conditions and exploitation that Migrant Justice has been fighting against for so many years. Sleeping in undignified housing, housing not fit for human habitation, overcrowded and falling apart, working long and extended hours without breaks, without rest, working for below minimum wage in this state, undergoing abuse and harassment, and when he went to organize, facing retaliation. And so that's what compelled Migrant Justice to get involved, to help create the Milk with Dignity program, so that he and his community would no longer have to suffer these abuses, but rather they would create a solution for Vermont's dairy industry, bringing farmers and farm workers together to create transformative change in the industry, to ensure that all farm workers are treated with the respect and dignity they deserve. Nacho is a leader for Milk with Dignity and a leader for human rights in this state. And just as he continued to fight for transformative change in the dairy industry, Nacho made a change in his own life. He became one of the many dairy workers who in recent years has sought other employment in this state. And Nacho became part of the growing community of immigrant construction workers in Vermont. The construction industry is characterized, however, by many of the same manifestations of mistreatment that dairy workers have faced for years. Workers suffering accidents as they fall off roofs without proper safety equipment, suffering from wage theft as they'll work a week for a fly-by-night employer only to find that the boss is gone when payday comes around. Fortunately, Nacho is not part of that statistic. Rather than working for these unscrupulous employers and construction firms like so many others, Nacho was able to find work and become not just a construction worker, but a worker owner of the New Frameworks Construction Worker Cooperative. So Nacho and his fellow worker owners at New Frameworks are showing through their example that another world is possible. That being an immigrant in this state does not mean that you have to suffer. It does not mean that you don't have power. It does not mean that you have to accept the conditions that your employer gives you. What New Frameworks is doing is showing that building can happen in Vermont in a way where workers have power, where workers can set the terms and conditions of their employment, and they can work together to create a better future. So I want to introduce Jacob from New Frameworks to talk more about Nacho's work as a leader in this company.
Thank you all for being here. It is deeply meaningful to see this turnout for our co-owner and our dear friend Nacho. I want to talk a little bit about the work that Nacho does in our community to make visible the work that he brings and the value that he brings to all of us, to our community. New Frameworks are a worker-owned cooperative that builds carbon storing, safe, healthy, affordable housing for our community here in Vermont. Nacho's role in the company was holding position. I've heard so much about his leadership today through Migrant Justice in his personal life. He holds leadership within New Frameworks as well, and has been incredible in galvanizing and holding energy around our panels team as we made a really important change in our company to start building panels from agricultural products grown in the state in safe, healthy housing that goes into communities within all throughout rural and urban Vermont. And without Nacho, we would not have been able to make the transition from being a small design build company into a fabrication company that now reaches way more people, more housing, more communities than we ever could have reached by ourselves. And it's because of Nacho's presence that we've been able to have that impact. New Frameworks, we created New Frameworks as a queer and women-owned worker cooperative to change what it means to participate in bringing housing into our community in Vermont. And the cooperative part was real, but it was also aspirational. in knowing that we could create a model of business where people weren't just given jobs and weren't just given careers, but given pathways to ownership. And it's through Nacho and the other members of our cooperative that have invested themselves in our company, not just to put food on the table, but as an active empowerment to own the means of their production, to have a pathway towards company ownership in service to their community that brings real value and transformational and systems level change, and not just meeting a base level need. Yes, we need housing. Yes, we need food, but we need to do it with dignity and empowerment collectively as a community. And that is what Nacho brings to New Frameworks, and still brings to New Frameworks, and will bring to New Frameworks when he is back with us and out from behind bars. So the stake in this is real. It is not, as a lifelong Vermonter, I've been increasingly frustrated with the exceptionalism that we hold as Vermont being above and beyond any impacts of racism, or what's the phrase we hear all the time? Racism does not grow well in the rocky soil of Vermont. That is not true. Were that was true, but it is not, and we need to acknowledge that we are not exceptional, and there are indignities and inhumanities happening in our state every day, and this is one of the more visible examples of how that manifests. We have personal stake in the well-being of migrants and all people within our community. On June 14th, I was at the high school graduation of my 18-year-old son. At the exact same time, my coworker and his 18-year-old daughter were violently dragged out of a vehicle 10 miles from my home in Franklin County. This is not happening to others. We are not here out of sympathy or empathy. We all have stake in Nacho's freedom and in our collective freedom. So I want to thank you for being here, and I want to invite you all to find your own stake in why this is important. I so appreciate the words earlier on asking yourself why you were here, and I'll ask a little more and say, what is your stake and what is your ownership in this struggle on a very personal level? Because whether you hold that awareness or not, you are connected to Nacho and Heidi's liberation, to the liberation of all migrants in this country. Thank you so much.
We all have a stake in this. We all have a stake in this. And when immigrant rights are under attack, we all have to stand up and we all have to fight back. So say it with me. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. Said, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. That's right, we stand up, we fight back. That's why we're here fighting for Nacho's freedom today, Heidi's freedom yesterday, and everybody's freedom tomorrow. We gotta stick with it, stay in the struggle. In a second, I'll be bringing up to the mic the last speaker of the day. But before that, I want to say a couple final words about Nacho's leadership in the fight for human rights in Vermont. We heard about his leadership in Milk with Dignity. We heard about his leadership as a worker owner in New Frameworks. We heard yesterday, for those of us who are here, about his visionary leadership bringing about a brand new program in Vermont, the Building Dignity and Respect program. We've heard about how his stepdaughter Heidi has learned from the example of Nacho, of her own mother, to become a leader in her own right, fighting for and passing the Vermont Education Equity Act in the State House last year. And this year in the State House, Nacho was a constant presence as a leader in the fight to expand housing access for immigrant families in Vermont. And one of the principal spokespeople behind the successful campaign to pass the Housing Access for Immigrant Families Act, which went into effect on July 1st last week. So as a result of Nacho's leadership, it is now unlawful to discriminate against immigrants in housing and public accommodations in this state. Landlords can no longer require a social security number, can no longer use that as a backdoor way of excluding immigrants from housing. And Nacho fought for that with the visionary of a community leader and also with the passion of a father who has had to fight for housing for his own family. Nacho went in front of the legislature to give testimony about his own experiences struggling to find housing, living in unstable housing. He talked about how he and his family were living in an unregulated attic apartment without electricity through the hot summer, and how he had to stay up at nights to keep his infant son cool by fanning him to make sure that he didn't overheat. He talked about how he and so many others in his community have had to struggle through unsafe and undignified housing, and that is what motivated him to fight to pass this law in the state. Pulling from his own experiences as a construction worker, Nacho spoke to elected officials, to legislators in the state, and in his testimony, he talked about building homes himself as a member of New Frameworks. And he said, whenever I finish building a house, I take great pride knowing that because of my work, a family will now have a roof over their heads. It is my sincere hope that the homes that we are building will one day be accessible for our own community. And because of Nacho's work and because of the work of his community, that dream has come to pass. So give it up for Nacho. All right, so now for the final speaker, I want to bring up to the mic another leader in migrant justice, a member of Migrant Justice's coordinated committee. Give it up for Eli Ramirez.
Buenas tardes a todos, gracias por estar aquí hoy en día. Como ya todos lo dijeron, pero no me voy a cansar de repetirlo. Ayer estuvimos aquí también por nuestra compañera Heidi, una joven apenas de 18 años. Apenas el año pasado vino de México con su familia y vino por un sueño a estudiar. Y hoy las autoridades de migración le están arrancando un sueño. No es justo porque ella es una joven que ha apoyado mucho a la organización y también ha estado liderando la ley de educación.
So as you all know, but as I won't tire of saying, we are here to free Nacho and free Heidi. We were here yesterday, we're here today, because these two people do not deserve to be in detention. Nacho is a leader in our community. Heidi is a leader in our community. She just came here in the past few years to reunite with her family after many years of separation, and now she's unjustly being held in detention.
Y hoy estamos aquí para pedir liberación para ellos. Ayer estuvimos muy tristes porque los resultados no fueron como nosotros queríamos. Pero no vamos a parar de luchar hasta que ellos estén libres.
And so yesterday we were here for Heidi's hearing, and sadly we didn't leave with the result that we wanted. Heidi was not let free by the judge yesterday, but that doesn't mean we're giving up and going home. We're going to continue to fight for Heidi's freedom and for Nacho's freedom.
Nuestro compañero Nacho tenía muchos proyectos para nuestra campaña de leche con dignidad y también tenía muchos proyectos para lo de vivienda porque sabe que todos nosotros sufrimos mucho por viviendas y tenía muchos pensamientos buenos y como les digo, las autoridades arrancan todos los sueños que tenemos y no es justo para su familia también, que está sufriendo porque él no está con ellos. Heidi también, una persona buena, una persona que ama la lucha y queremos que esté acá con nosotros y pedimos su libertad.
And so Nacho is a man of large dreams. He's somebody who has been creating visions for a more just future, for a brighter future, whether it's Milk with Dignity, whether it's the housing bill. All the things that he's been involved in over the last several years are all to bring about a change. And Heidi as well. She's somebody who's become a leader in her own right, somebody who loves the struggle for human rights. And ICE is trying to cut short those dreams. They're trying to cut them down and take them from us. And that's why we need to fight.
Queremos que se separen las deportaciones y no queremos ni una familia más separada.
So we want an end to deportations and an end to family separation. Not one more. Not one more. Not one more. Not one more.
Not one more. Not one more. Not one more.
¿Se puede o no se puede?
Sí se puede.
¿Se puede o no se puede?
Sí se puede.
Heidi, Nacho, no están solos.
Heidi,
Nacho, no están solos. Heidi, Nacho, no están solos. Heidi, Nacho, no están solos. Heidi, Nacho, no están solos. Heidi, Nacho, no están solos.
Heidi, Nacho, no están solos.
Give it up for Ali, un aplauso. All right. So we want to be wrapping up. As we know, Nacho's hearing received a continuance today, which means that his bail motion was not heard. That's not an end to the case, though. Nacho and Heidi are going to continue to fight for their freedom here in federal court, as well as in immigration court. Nacho had a hearing earlier today in immigration court. The case is moving forward on both fronts. And Nacho, Heidi, and their legal team are pursuing all options available to stop their deportations and to win their release. And just today, just now, we're receiving a text that while the bail hearing was not heard, Nacho was granted an extension to the temporary restraining order that is prohibiting ICE from transferring out of state. So that means that Nacho and Heidi are staying in Vermont. They're staying close. They continue to have access to their legal team, to their support system, and we're staying with them until the end. Free Nacho, free Heidi, free them all! So one last chant before we go. Vermont will fight for immigrant rights. 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 One last one. Vermont will fight for immigrant rights. All right, give yourselves a round of applause. Stay tuned, follow along. This is just the beginning. We're going to be out in the streets, in the courts, however many times it takes. Thank you for being here today. Help spread the word. If you have not yet sent a message to ICE demanding freedom for Nacho and Heidi, scan the QR code on the sign behind me to sign the petition and send a message. Thank you for being here.